Good afternoon, all together. Welcome to the What's New in Enable Now 2105 session for consultants. As always, for the sake of GDPR, if you don't want your name, your face, your questions, or whatever private being visible to others, please disconnect now, since this meeting is now being recorded. How are you guys doing? All good, hopefully? Thank God it's Friday. Another couple of hours, at least for me. For the American colleagues, a little more, but the end is close. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, let's talk about 2005. I don't think that we need the full 3 hours. Anyway, at any time, if you want to go into more detail or have any questions, just unmute yourself immediately. Don't wait for the Q&A at the end. We're going to open an official Q&A at the end, but everything is fine. We're going to be out here like after an hour and a half. I would guess at least that's how long the morning session took. So some exciting stuff in there, also some not that exciting, but some exciting stuff at least. Also, let's see. General changes, what do we have? For sure, and obviously, the most obvious one is the new user interface approach in Manager, which now is just the header in the menu and some reports for now. So basically, this is the starting point for the transition to the new UI framework we are using since 2 releases now. All the pre-work that has been made so far was more under the cover, not obvious. Now the header and the outside frames have been modified. So I would expect the complete migration being final with the upcoming release 2111. But for now, it's also just painted a bit different. And the obvious thing that comes aside with this is performance. Yeah, so the parallel task execution is something that you obviously realize. Yeah, so you don't have to wait before one task is done before you can trigger the other. They are asynchronous now. So things are faster as they have been before. That's the good news, which is not officially on that page. For us as consultants, there is one thing to consider. Here we go. That's the start screen. You end up here by clicking the icon if you have a customized UI. 2 things here. First, the starting point is, as always, and as the factory default is since ever, the work area that you left the last time. And that means any author will probably think, hey, where is this nice looking tile page gone? And if it's only the logo and you don't know that there is an interactivity on it, it might be confusing. Yeah? So you're gonna get back with the click on the top left to see the tiles and the tile view. If you change the configuration and you remove the logo icon, this is going to be replaced with a home icon, which at least for me makes more sense. Secondary, if you upgrade, or if your cloud customers tenants have been upgraded, for whatever reason, the automated migration of this skin is not executed automatically. Maybe this is a bug, maybe this is foreseen because it is so different this time. However, it is not executed. So what you have to do is you go back to your resource, open style editor, save it once more and publish it. Yeah, this is a manual execution task, no automation expected here. Since it's coming now as a next what's new tile, and yes, there is a filter. Search as you type. That's all about it. Let's go back to the slides. That's the one that I mentioned, right? So high contrast, it was a big topic in the US, I suppose. I haven't heard that request earlier, but a lot of people were asking whether the Windows triggered high contrast themes for night time consumption and for people that like it in general can't be applied to Enable Now somehow automatically. Again, I haven't had that request from any customer yet. Maybe one of you can enlighten my path here, why this is so important for an e-learning tool. But however, it works now with some restrictions. So first restriction, and this is clearly stated here, the pass-through of this status of high contrast is something which is proprietary to the operational system Windows, so it's actually supported only by Windows browsers, unfortunately. That means this automation will be automatically triggered if the Windows theme is set to high contrast by IE still until it dies, and Edge, but it's not working in Chrome based on the current version. And the second one is there are two new trainer styles in the work area because Windows supports two different high contrast themes, a light one and a dark one. And there are two trainer styles in the configuration, and it's not customizable in the way that we are actually doing it from a best practice perspective. Yeah? Our usual best practice is we create a clone of the existing resource and name it customer something. Yeah? You create a namespace for the customer to avoid any hiccups and any loops to redo things again and again after the upgrades. Yeah? Effectively, technically, to avoid overwrites of resources from the migration wizard. In that particular case, at least I couldn't figure out whether there is a chance to configure it. They are coming from the factory defaults. I would suppose if you have a customized or a design-affine customer who wants to customize all of those skins and wants to take advantage of this particular feature, that you're going to have to customize not one manager skin no more, the trainer skin no more, but three. And then effectively do the other two, the high contrast black and the high contrast white, again once every update, or save it as a DKP. However, you have to mention that because I'm expecting those to be overwritten because they are not somehow custom. Yeah? So in the settings as such, there is no flag saying use for high contrast light, use this one, and for high contrast black. So I'm just guessing that this is going to happen. We see in that one, it's minor. Okay, now let's proceed to our beauty called Web Assistant. There is much more to tell.
Mike?
Web Assistant, yes.
Mike? Yeah, I have a question. It seems to me as if a few releases ago, there was Web Assistant available on Enable Now, and now the question mark is gone.
No, that's just a configuration question. Question mark is gone. Administration, yeah. Server settings, snoop. Hui, it's gone. There it is. I just deactivated and activated, and now it's there. Maybe that's a little buggy, but it's still there. It's only visible in some areas. It's mainly for admins. This is why you're going to find it here mainly. Yeah, on work area there's nothing, and maybe they changed configuration and said that on show help if there is no help. But yeah, it's there. But I realized that it wasn't there before, and you're right. So I believe it's a buggy. I was doing this, going server settings, going down to the configuration, switching it off and on immediately, and then it appeared again for me.
So for me, it was off, and now I switched it on, and nothing happened. So now I'll try switching it off and on, and see if something. But I don't think that that's really what customers are expecting.
No, not really. Took notes already, but it's still alive, and content is still there.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's here.
Good. Web Assistant for by design. Question: has anyone of you a business by design customer?
Iron Spink does.
Yeah. Hi, Mike.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, I've got one.
Okay. I never been in touch with this application. I haven't since this slide. I haven't even known that it's still alive. But okay, I was just curious if there is still implementations around. Good. This is for later. Let's see how that works. No, that's the wrong one. That's the right one. So by design is now fioritized a lot. So it's all tilish. Maybe it was before and I even didn't know. However, it's supporting Web Assistant now. Question mark is here, but there is something specific because the question mark is overloaded with a lot of functionalities, and Web Assistant is one of them. So toggling us on and off is something that happens up there on the second menu level, switching off, same thing. Yeah? Second menu level, switches it off again. Okie dokie. So what's in there? There's guided tours. My settings. Well, why is this German now? In the morning it was English. However, it's German now. Guided tours work like a charm, including object recognition. So my settings, it was. Page spanning, guided tours work like a charm. So at least in that little content that we got in the standard, I haven't seen any restrictions. Yeah, looks very good and very fluent, fast, all good. So in case that question is going to be asked, what's about business by design? There we go. It works. Not much more to say here. Just a new application on our list of officially supported ones. So regarding the integration, and especially regarding the amount of content within the slides that you can download from InfoCenter, there is a blog from the product manager of Business by Design, Christoph Schneider, linked, where he talks about the cases and the integration as such. And there is a configuration video down here that walks you through the complete configuration steps. The portal page, the gem page, where we usually communicate the listings of all the standard contents, is not yet updated. I just checked that because there was a question in the morning session around it. Most likely this will happen soon, yeah? Within the next couple of days. Yeah, so but there's just little content. No? As you've seen, it's not that much. It's some guided tours on the start, and there is some, I believe it's only guided tours basically on that launchpad. And the learning center, I don't even know why this is active because it's completely empty. And don't know where this is coming from. That hasn't been there before. Good. Besides that, nothing more to say around by design. Next one, Ariba. My Ariba test tenant died, unfortunately, so I can't show you that. Just talking about it, custom help is now possible. So Ariba was not quite flexible in terms of the extensibility scenario. This is what that says. It's working now, and it's working fine, at least in product sourcing. And there is updated standard content and additional standard content for 2 additional modules, trading partner registration and supplier portal. Since I'm a complete DAO in terms of Ariba, I'm just reading the lines. I have no idea what that actually means. I have never been in touch in detail with those Ariba modules. Maybe you know more than I do, but that's just an information. There is more than there was before. Some minor performance support things. Consistency. One of the things that everybody was asking for, including myself, was consistency regarding the information type classification icons that we got basically everywhere, and now they are really everywhere. Yeah, that's what those two say. The controls come with the icons, the guided tour step lists come with the icons, so you really see the classification of the information and the steps everywhere. That was super confusing. Because sometimes you just didn't get what comes next and what you actually added. This is now brilliant. This one I want to show you because that's really a big step forward, and that was simply a missing feature. Let's jump over to the browser again, taking my S4 trial here, and let's go to manage supplier line items. Beforehand, in the last release, and all releases before, bubbles in guided tour steps had no offset property, which always led to the fact that that they were per default overlapping the target, which was a little pain in the which is now gone. So let's see, this is my target. Let's use the go button. Those small, tiny buttons, they were always the best example. And that's exactly how it would behave. Yeah, it would simply overlay the target. So in each step of the guided tour, end user would have to take the bubble and drag it away to actually execute the action, which was not nice from us. now we got hotspot, offset, IHA finally. And there you go upwards and downwards. No, upwards and downwards. And then it moves the bubble already in preview to the outside, and it works like a charm. That was really missing. So for any of your active engagements where guided tours are in place, please announce this actively, because it's really a big difference. Even if it's just a couple of pixels, it's just one drag and drop interaction less per step to execute for the end user to just get this button or item usable on the screen again. So offset for guided tours, hee-haw. You might have seen that already. I mean, as you all know, Web Assistant's release cycle and the solutions overall release cycle are completely independent from each other. So the Lightbox pop-up function has been implemented already like 2 or 3 Web Assistant releases ago. Yeah, but the official what's new consolidates everything that happened since the last official update. So it's 6 months. So it's basically around about 6 Web Assistant releases in between. So this happened already earlier. We all are used to it already, but yeah, it's new since the last official one. So yeah, there is a Lightbox in separate window functionality since a while. For all of you having had issues with accessibility and accessibility compliance, public sector or wherever, the sidebar is now fully accessible. That means that the focus rectangle can be colored, that the focus rectangle's color can even be customized, and tabbing through them works restrictionless. Yeah, that means there is a tab hierarchy now that makes sense. I believe they start with the widgets on the left, and then they go in and go from top to bottom. So it's now screen reader capable, I would suppose. Yeah, but at least it's closer, and this gave us a higher VPAT 2.0 rating for Web Assistant. I believe we are now green in all areas. Yeah? But I haven't checked that. If you have different information, let us know. But yeah, we are on the way. Customizable icons for the hotspots. A lot of customers are being more design affine, are asking for those icons to be customized, yeah, to really be able to upload own SVG graphics. That would be the best case, but for now, as an interim, we got the icons colorable with 2 new parameters: HSI icon, no HS icon, foreground and background, should be self-explaining, just 2 more, and the icons that we paste into the applications via hotspots are going to be colored, but it's overall, so it's the complete collection, not one by one. That's an important one, and that's a beauty actually, and there we are going to go into a bit more detail. Fallback for help content for Web Assistant. Yeah, first restriction before we talk about the beauty of the solution as such, it's not for desktop, unfortunately. Yeah? Desktop will not take any fallbacks into consideration at all. If you are challenged by a customer regarding fallback chains in Desktop Assistant, keep in mind there is a custom solution called Master Desktop Assistant that supports fallback chains. It is not yet standard. Bomjo Kim would be your counterpart to help you out. Yeah, she is able to customize that, but she's quite well booked. Yeah, so talk to us in advance, no, with some weeks in advance to be able to plan this. But it's possible. Yeah, we just need to talk about it, and it's not yet standard. It's a pure consulting delivery. Just take a note, maybe. It's called Master Desktop Assistant. So we could do the same that we can do out of the box in Web Assistant also in desktop, but it's a bit of effort. Yeah? So it's probably a day or 2 of custom programming to get that done. However, just as a side note, there is something. For Web Assistant, it's standard now since ever. So since Web Assistant was invented, the general and overall fallback language for each and everything with English US. So any language, Russian fell back to English US, simplified Chinese fell back to English US if there was nothing. And it wasn't even deactivatable. So it was just hard coded, and now it's fully flexible. One is obvious, which is called global language fallback. That means if you don't want English US being your global language fallback, you could use any other. And then any language or any context where the help content is not available would then present the content in the chosen fallback language. For instance, let's say whatever, you are Canadian French, and you want Canadian French because there are specific idioms in that language, and the fallback should be French. Yeah, that would probably be a valid example. That's possible via global. The beauty is that one, which is, and this sentence is really funny. In addition to the global alternative language, an individual alternative language can also be defined for each language of the user interface with the new parameter. Did you get it? I didn't. So what I did was I opened Web Assistant Integration Guide and read it. And then it was clear to me. There's a new chapter for it. Fallback. There's a new chapter for the fallback handling. And there you got the global one, which is self-explaining. And there you have the standard mapping. Yeah, there is default fallbacks for certain locales, no? Like Chinese to traditional to simplified and back and stuff. But there's the interesting one. You can define custom fallback languages in JSON formats. Let's say from a, and this is just how to read it, from a certain language, like English Australian, you fall back to English Great Britain. And from French for Belgium, you fall back to French for French, and via Canadian. Or in a complete chain, so it's just chains of fallbacks. They are coded in JSON as it is, and what the URL expects, and that's the tricky part, the output of that has to be URL encoded, and this is how this looks like afterwards. So it must be a URI or URL encoded string. If you want to try something out, you put it into your URL just as any other parameter, and in the configuration you need it in that format as well. The documentation says you might use the embedded URI encoder, which is part of the Web Assistant framework actually, yeah, that you could use within the console. So you can hit F12 in your browser and use the browser console to encode your stuff with this standard command. Maybe it's more helpful. I'm using the W3 School open source functionality mostly. And I'm just showing you that one. This is the www school, and this is where you can encode something. And then you can put your, oops, that was the wrong one. Can put your fallback string in there. Where was my, just cleaning up my mess here. Let's use this one with the Australian example, copy it, and there you go. Submit, and there you have your encoded string. Yeah, maybe that's easier than doing it in the command line. I just wanted to show you where you could do that. This is one example out of many. And there's a lot of those wizards and little helpers around in the internet. So any questions around that?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, it's Byron.
Hi, Byron.
My by design customer, I've realized that there's no parameters field in the Web Assistant settings. So does the old coded fallback language still apply for that, or is that by default still, or is that not possible?
Yeah, no. The fallbacks are still the default fallbacks, but it's now more than one.
Yeah, okay.
Before everything fell back to English, and now specific ones like Catalan falls back to this. No, other way around. Catalan falls back to Spanish, and then via Mexican and Colombian. That's a stupid example. Simplified Chinese falls back to Taiwanese. Traditional Chinese falls back to simplified Chinese, and so on. Right? That's the pairs. Okay. And all of them are falling back to English if you don't configure it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm wondering, is there really no configuration in by design?
No, and the blog that you just referred to,
okay,
I can't remember his name. Sorry, he did say that it's not there yet, but
okay,
I hope plan for the future.
all right. So if there is no configuration, there can't be any conflicts. So what you can do is you can put your complete configuration in a beast of a URL, and just convince the customer to say your access to the solution is just handled by this URL. That's still possible, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. So language fallback is in place. There is some minor improvements in edit mode in Web Assistant regarding that focus layer. Yeah, it only overlays now the step list if you're in preview mode. Makes sense, but maybe there was enough space for another box. Intranet only. That's one which is important, which is already on the road as well since half a year roundaboutish. And there is a super cool blog from Anton, from our North American champion, Anton Mavrin, explaining all the necessary configurations, including the routing for Web Dispatcher in detail. The SAP node contains less information, to be honest. But there is a node for it, and this is a bad request error page. So the node is linked, and there is one, and it takes ages to load. Come on. There we go. And this one just explains the configurations regarding the plugin and the parameters that are supposed to be put, pointing to an address to a local manager where the Web Assistant framework would be hosted, right? It doesn't say much about the needed routing configurations if you still have to use Web Dispatcher. We come to this point in a second anyway. But there I can only recommend Anton's blog, which I'm going to show you as well, and put the link into the chat as soon as I find it. There you go. And that's, to my humble opinion, the better read. That's the one. And again, Anton, if you are in the room right now, again, thank you very much for that one. Where's the chat? There is the chat, and there is the link. There you go. And this also refers to the same node, yeah, but adds a bit more meat to the bones regarding Web Dispatcher and the overall configuration effort that you got. So if you see that as a recipe, if you go from top to bottom, you will be fine. That's really beautiful. So what is this for? Maybe not all of you had this challenge yet, but there are specific niches or industrial sectors where server security standards are simply higher than somewhere else. In that particular case here, we were targeting intelligence, military, defense suppliers, big banks, oil companies are on the same level of security, where they simply and per default do not allow functional servers on their premises to talk to the internet just because they want to update something. And this is something that is, or not allowing any browser to talk to the internet and download whatever. That's simply impossible from that security standards perspective. So what the answer to those kind of customers since ever has been was, okay, Web Assistant contains web, and if you can't access the web, then there's no assistant for you, I'm sorry. And this changed now with a backside of that coin. You always have to keep in mind, and especially because we can expect customers asking for that being super security affine, that you really have to discuss that throughout the implementation and create a process for that purpose. If there would be a security vulnerability within our Web Assistant code, nothing would happen at all. Nothing happens automatically, right? And not even an information, because we have no tracking on customers using this offline feature, it's in the responsibility of the consultant and the customer to do it. So you're going to implement version XYZ of Web Assistant on-premise for the CIA, and then there will be a security vulnerability. Then you have to take care that this is communicated and the upgrade is executed on their premises as well and as fast as possible. Yeah. So keep in mind, no auto updates, any new feature, any security related and therefore needed upgrade would have to be done by either the customer's admin or yourself. But besides that, the node is there, Anton's super block is there, so we should have everything that we need. So, and now finally, very good news regarding the people in the room hating SAP Web Dispatcher configuring as much as I do. We don't have to anymore, at least for the latest version of S/4HANA on-premise. Yeah? S/4HANA on-premise was the only infrastructure where we still had to have Web Dispatcher in place because of a lack of CORS capabilities, of cross-scripting capabilities. This is fixed now on their end, on S/4HANA's, and so basically we Enable Now, the manager, are CORS capable and they are CORS capable just as the others, and now we are fine. So potentially any new implementation of Web Assistant on S/4HANA on-premise could come without that configuration disaster of that Web Dispatcher. But since you know that S/4HANA on-premise might be updated only once every couple of years, this is nothing that just happens by now. Yeah? You have to check your customers. S4 version. Let's see if this node was now released. In the morning, it wasn't there. Because I don't know that version by heart. 2020 Service Pack 1. That's the one we talk. So any below, and most of them of the customers I know, they are still on 1911. So it might take a bit. But however, at least there is light at the end of the tunnel that we get rid of that body soon and completely. Not much more to say here. It's less effort for us. Bubble and hotspot size. What's that? Performance support, Web Assistant mode for desktop assistant. Yeah, it's not to the full extent same yet. As you know, yeah, there is feature deltas between desktop assistant in Web Assistant mode and Web Assistant as such, but it becomes less and less. One was that people were asking for the hotspots and the indicators to have the same sizing capabilities than the embedded editor of Web Assistant gives us. Done now. Same, the consistency regarding the classification icons is also something that is taken over to desktop assistant. We are not on 100% yet, yeah, but as you see, this is something where we consistently try to make both behave exactly the same. And there is 2 new green tick marks on our list. Even more, no, that's not related to the consistency. Multiple monitors, this was one where desktop assistant users were used to in the classic skin, being able to drag the widget bar over to somewhere and attach it to one of either screens in dual or triple monitor workplaces. Web Assistant so far did not support that. Now it does, but only if you have the sidebar minimized, the inflated one. If it's expanded, you can't drag it. Huh? That's obvious that this wouldn't work, but you have to know that. And then another one where I personally, am very happy about is the fact that since what's new is not yet implemented in desktop assistant, Web Assistant mode, nevertheless, the automatic start of guided tours now works fine, and this is quite cool. So you have start automatically in the guided tour style macro, in the first macro in the list, which simply means that a certain guided tour can be triggered automatically as soon as the user enters the matching context for the first time. which is effectively a what's new announcement functionality or a welcome to the new functionality tour or whatever. And that works now fine in web assistant mode, and it didn't before. So that's worth mentioning in your next workshops. So that was it regarding web assistant and desktop assistant. So now comes the big block that is really the focus block in this release, which is analytics and reporting. There were gaps in data since ever, yeah, and reporting, and the answer that we had to give us what was always, yeah, you have to use the raw report and then somehow try to make something out of this massive spreadsheet on your own. But now we are closer to a real satisfying solution. Or maybe we got it already. So I really like what I see here. Issue is we have to stay in the slides, and even if you are trying it on demo, there is not much to see because we have no data. Yeah? So this is a bit like the backside of the kind. It's now there, yeah, but it's not presentable because there is no tracking data in none of our tenants because we can't track because of GDPR. So what I would suggest is if you are in the next workshop and you have a spare minute, use your customer data when they have tracking active and play around there, because then it becomes meaningful. Just as a lookout, we are discussing right now product management side to create an example factory implementation of Enable Now with real data, auto-generated or script generated, but meaningful data to be able to present this. As soon as this is done, I'm gonna put that on the agenda for one of our Friday sessions and walk you through it and show you how to present and how to use it for such demo purposes. It's not there yet, and it probably will take another couple of weeks before it is, because that's a lot of effort, because we really track a lot of data. So to create this via script in a meaningful manner, that's a bit of that needs a bit of brain work. But however, it will happen. For now, all of our accesses are more or less blank and there is no proper data. So let's just talk about the reports from a theoretical perspective. I heard.
Sorry if
yes.
This is a question that everybody knows, but for tracking, in order to set on tracking, because I'm getting the message that tracking wasn't set on.
Yes.
So in the playback settings trainer global, there's tracking backend automatic, and I also need manager detailed tracking steps, elements, and actions, correct?
Yeah.
Is there any place else though that I need it?
There's 3 places for all 3 delivery channels. One delivery channel is manager, and manager would provide access to courses via deep links or learner view or to libraries. For those standard content delivery cases, what you just mentioned, settings, playback, manager, tracking, general to automatic or to manager will activate tracking for all those browser-based access scenarios. The second one is in desktop assistant for desktop assistant. Here we go, settings. So first is, where are we? Playback, trainer, global, general, automatic. No, that's the one that you mentioned. This will work for libraries, for courses, for direct links, but for nothing else. Then we got desktop assistant playback, desktop assistant, no, general, advanced. Always keep in mind, the best stuff is gone if advanced layout is inactive, and they are well hidden and off per default. Desktop assistant tracking has to be switched on for desktop assistant tracking. And then for web assistant tracking, you have to add the configuration parameter that points to a certain manager work area for tracking purposes called tracking VR tracking URL. That's an implicit switch. So if it's configured like this, the WA tracking URL parameter is part of your configuration pointing to a certain work area. This implicitly will start tracking, but not before. So you have to do 3 configuration steps to enable tracking in a full
I didn't understand the third. Where is the third?
The third is a configuration parameter, just as the others in Web Assistant. And let's look for tracking, configuration of tracking. There you go. And that's it. Yeah, tracking URL SEN. That's the one. Tracking URL SEN, and then you have to point to the published state. That's important. The published prefix of a certain work area. Like I want to track all contents that are coming from this work area in that particular application. It's in 100% of the cases the same where the content comes from. Yeah, makes no sense that it's different. It could also just have been tracking URL, tracking SEN is true. Yeah, but it's decided to be flexible, even if flexibility makes no sense here. So what you do is tracking URL SEN equals, and then you put the URL to the work area where the content comes from. And this will start tracking. Okay.
Yep, thanks.
And that means, Mike, that the reports still only show what's custom content. They don't show tracking or generic content stored at SAP, right?
I didn't get that acoustically, so you were breaking up a bit.
Oh, sorry. The reports only show tracking for custom content, not generic SAP content, right?
No, if that depends. It always depends. Boxes and arrows help in nowadays web assistant complexity. But if you use a connected work area extension pair to push it through, then even the standard content will be tracked because it's a physical part of the work area that it comes from.
Ah, good one. I like that.
Yeah, but if you have a delta configuration, if you have, for instance, one part of your content coming from one server and one part from the other, and it's not connected, in that case, it's not tracked. That's true. So in the standard content scenario, even if Enable Now is in place, no tracking, but as soon as you connect and extend, it's tracked. And that was a missing feature, and that missing feature was added in the last release. All right, so context help visits report. Which of the context help objects have been clicked? How often? Including drill downs. You can have a look at your drill downs yourself, how you can go deeper and get more information. Some drill downs are still not implemented, but indicator, if you crawl a list like that and you hover it and your mouse and it does something, yeah, then there is going to come there's a drill down going to come. For now, maybe that one, I believe that one is not drill downable. Now, so you couldn't watch one level deeper to show if Mr. Miller from finance department clicked on open help once or not. But we know that 16 people did so. Yeah, and 3 different users, and 3 of them 60 times overall interacted with that particular button. Yeah? And we have that visualized on the top. So yeah, that's it from EPSS tracking and analytics perspective, one of the most important one. Which of the help objects is used the most often? And just to let you know, the filtering is quite massive in those new reports, as you've seen in the last release already. Yes, there's a lot of configuration possible. Now they added a save. Yeah, so you can have your private pre-filtered list of reports here, which is quite handy, just based on the massive amount of reports that we offer since now. So context help visits, one guided tour playback. Yes, sir.
This is good. So this is now the enhancement of the last context help tile report. So now we can see. Okay.
Yeah. Guided tour playback, same thing. Which guided tour, which delivery channel? Finally, we got all of the delivery channels in here. Desktop and web assistant. Which one is used, how often, etc. Super handy as well. I believe this one will be for adaption quality and adaption analytics and analysis in general, the most important one, which is the guided tour dropout. Yeah, where did people drop out of a guided tour? Yeah, is this guided tour robust? Yeah, if they all drop out at the same step 100 times, 1,000 times, then there must be something wrong with it. Yeah, so this is a quality assurance measure here, which is super helpful I already used it a couple of times last week for several customers to see, hey, this is where the issues are, and this is the things that you have to have a look for. Or if you drop out because of a failure of the target, or of a change of the target, this indicates that adjustments need to be done on either side, either on the guided tour side or on the processes side as such, if it's not matching anymore. Very important report, and now it's there. Engaged users, same thing. Yeah, that was that cockpitting approach that we were talking since ever. That was actually only accessible if you drilled down in the raw report data on your own. This is now a visualization that has cockpit style. That means peaks in usage. Yeah, content from which work area is used the most often in time. Yeah, and how does the peaks look like? Yeah, so this is a good one for presentations, management presentations. Saying, look, this was the go live, this was peaks and stuff. Quite handy, that one. Limited in functionality here, yeah, but be patient, 2 more slides and we're gonna see the real beauty. Objects in editing, yeah, so there's also additional functionality for administrational analytics and administrational reporting. One example would be this one. Objects in editing, filterable by object type, just the number. There is also a drill down. I believe this drill down already works now. Let's have a look. I don't know. Maybe, where is it? There. Reporting. Engaged unique users. I like that one. Yeah, but you see, this is what happens on our tenant. If everything is off, I switch it on my work area. It just looks like a primary school kid's triangle drawing example, but nothing really meaningful. So we really need a tenant with data to be able to do something with that. Editing objects in editing, this must work. But let's see if it drills down. No, it doesn't. I thought it would. Yeah, but here you see, if it's changing its color, there's going to be a drill down soon, but not now. However, this one could also be used directly in editing by authors, which is the old one again. That's still the old style. All reports looking like this, old user interface technology, all reports looking more like this with the new header. They are from the new user interface. We can expect the complete transition being fully executed by November. So, saving report, I mentioned that. There's a plus. You can give it a name. You can save it for yourself. For later usage, the number is unlimited. So now comes the real beauty. Creation of reports in external data analysis applications. So what does that mean? And that means that we opened, or they have been open since a while, but now they are documented, our data endpoints of the manager and provide them as a documented API. So what's a data endpoint? A data endpoint is actually a persistent set of data that you can gather by calling it via a specific URL and optionally passing over certain parameters like time ranges, yeah, or other filter parameters. And manager gives you back a JSON object with the result. So it's a proper API. It was there since ever. It's actually the same API that the manager itself uses to create its reports and data. But now Martin from Enable Now Product Management took a lot of effort and documented all this, and it really, really became a beauty. Let's see. So this is in external info center. Maybe you missed that one. It was added a couple of weeks ago already. It's in third party, or let me just show you the click path to save you some time searching. External. Product synergies. This is where they put it. And then down here, connect third-party analytics. This is the starting point, and this is it. Yeah? This is where you end up. And what the story it tells is basically, hey, we now can attach third-party analytics applications to Enable Now to be able to create cockpits for any purpose. That's what it does. I'm not yet a Power BI pro. I will definitely do some training here and try to become as pro as possible. And then we could put that on the agenda of one of our Friday meetings to go into a bit more detail. I didn't get the code yet to the full extent, and I haven't touched Power BI more than like 2 times. So feel free to ask your questions, but maybe I can't answer them. However, we now count on Power BI. No? So a question, why aren't we using Lumira? Because Lumira would be the SAP data visualization solution. To my knowledge, Lumira was sunsetted. I believe this is not long-term capable anymore. And most of the customers that we asked, they said, we have Power BI in place. So Power BI was the chosen weapon simply because it has the broadest installation base and the most impact. So let's see what that can be done. I won't read that for you. You can read it on your own, I believe. But what I really want to emphasize on is there's cool tutorials here. Yeah. So do yourself a favor and go through that complete 6-page tiny course, but look at the tutorials. It makes a lot of sense. So sure, you have to prepare connections of data. No? So where does the data come from? How do the endpoints look like, etc. Huh? This is what this one explains. On the next level, where are we? No, I killed it. I'm sorry. So again, so connection, and then define the request of data that you probably want to use. I'm just fast forwarding. Connect and use the response data, the given back data, and this is where Power BI comes into play. And this is the link that you please use. Download Power BI templates, and there's 4 of them that the product management team provides, and one of them I will present you in a second, which is really a beauty. There are some notes. Take care that you really don't overlook that page. One important thing, Power BI is not XAML capable. So you have to have a user that you use for those requests with the appropriate permissions that uses password and username. No technical users, no Windows authentication for whatever reason, I don't know, yeah, but it doesn't work. So you have to have a form logon user, and you have to take permissions into consideration, because reports could be completely different from a data output perspective if you have a different permission. If you're not allowed to see the users list and you try to run a users report, you wouldn't have users, for sure not. Yeah, so the API responses based on your permission. Yeah, that's a GDPR general thing, and it's a good thing. Then you can create one report and give it to different people, and if different people have different permissions, they will see different data, only the data, in fact, that they are allowed to see. Yeah, so that's a good thing, but keep in mind, this is something that I consider as a pitfall in the first couple of implementations before you get used to it. So, however, next one is the last page, the available data endpoints, and this is really a beauty. You have to know that this is a link here. And this one brings you to a new library, and that's the coding documentation of our endpoints. Super cool. That's the one that you would look at with the customer's data science scientists, for instance. Content, user, reports. Content, work area objects. Give me all objects of a certain work area in a certain state. Work area search, super powerful thing. Yeah, give me back everything that has a certain type in a certain language with a certain subtype. If you have any custom properties created, just add them in the same way here. Yeah. And by the way, this is a JSON query. Yeah. That is the same approach as we had before, where I showed you that encoder. So this has to be attached to the URL behind the question mark, as all of the parameters in the web are. Yeah, behind the question mark, the query actually starts. And this is the query syntax, parameters, documentation. And for sure, to bring such a JSON and intended more tree-ish JSON object into a URL, you have to encode it. Huh? Same procedure as we saw with the fallback chains. Same approach, same tools to use. It's the same thing. So all the data that manager as an application uses to render its front end are explained here from the perspective of the pure data access. Okay. And that is actually what leads to our, I haven't opened it yet. I should have done because it takes a while to sync. So anybody who knows a good joke, now would be the perfect time to share it with us. There we go. So, and that's one implementation of one of the 4 templates that exist. And this is called administrational insights. So it's an admin cockpit. And this admin cockpit is now attached to the production server of the standard contents, because that's the one with most likely the best data quality or the most meaningful data quality. Nevertheless, it's the same challenge as mentioned before. We don't have a real properly and from everybody usable instance somewhere that really contains valid valid data. This will take another couple of weeks before we have something like that, but it's clear that it's needed. However, welcome to Power BI. It's a Windows application just as any other, and this is one instance of that that report mentioned. And there you see what you can get. Let me go to this first tile here. It's still loading. This is why I was saying I should have done that before. And it always tells me again and again that there's a new skin for mobile, whatever. So server insights, look what you can get there. And there is different data visualization features here. Yeah, geographical ones, pie charts, whatever, mind map-ish ones, connectivities. So whatever you want to do, you can put a visualization on top of it, and you can consider this cockpit as an example for what you can do. For instance, hey, there is 10 statues in the server. Okay, not that impressive. Let's see user insights. You see the average number of people coming from a specific org unit in a pie chart. You see the amount of permission levels as a pie chart. And if you don't like pie charts, you can just instantly change it to another visualization, like a column chart. You have listings where you can do drill downs. You see they are hovering, and if you click on, you would end up on the drill down level if it's possible in the particular report. There are smart narrative, artificial intelligence driven wordings that you can create. Word clouds are possible. And always take into consideration you can use any data that is offered by any of the endpoints in such a cockpit. Yeah, and you see this is a lot of stuff. We don't have to go one by one because they are all meant as examples. And I believe from that perspective, they are self-explaining. The important part is where is this data coming from and how is this working in general? So the data is actually coming from edit parameters would be the function here from a certain source. No, that's that server that we are using. It's a clone. It's a copy of the Enable Now education standard content production with all the data. Yeah, so it's internal only. Yeah, I was saying we are working on a solution for all of you here. So this is the source, and this source is actually used for different of the endpoints mentioned earlier. Yeah, it's using 1, 2, 3, 4 many endpoints. And one thing you have to take into consideration is this permission level here, because again, GDPR-wise, you probably do not have the right permissions to see this data, even from the perspective of this visualization tool. And there I'm going to show you one setting that there was a trap I stepped in. It just didn't work after I downloaded Martin's beautiful templates and tried them, but they never filled with data. So it didn't simply work. The reason is here, file, and please take a note because I don't think that this is noted somewhere in that documentation. Come on. There we go. And then you have two levels. This is the same approach that we have, no? Current file or global. And at least on that current file level in privacy, you have to switch the default, which is combined data according to your privacy level settings for each source up there. And you change that to the second option, ignore privacy levels and potentially improve performance. You could easily delete the potentially, because it massively improves the performance. It effectively makes the whole thing work. So this is mandatory to change either each time, what I did, and you shouldn't do that in customer situations, because you probably have to take privacy into consideration. However, I changed it globally here and say, always do so, and then it won't ask anymore. And after that, it worked like a charm. So the basic function here in transform data is the data source, the foundation of all the visualizations are accessible here. And you see those are persistent. Yeah? And that's another beauty of this approach. We actually have our complete data model visible. Yeah? You can have a look immediately to the single table. Updates is not that impressive, but let's go to the full user list. That's interesting data that was hardly gatherable out of the UI, without big stunts. Now we got it. It's just there. With all the data, with the OU, with the paths they are in. So all the data that is taken from the reports and from the manager UI are here step by step. And down here, functions. This is the functions that Martin wrote to get the data structured in a proper way to use them. But this is something that we're going to go into detail in a specific session that deals with that topic. Let me see whether I'm going to hold it or if we hire Martin for a couple of hours to give us some more insights here. Another view that is worth being mentioned is, where was that again? Oh no, that's here. On the left is the entity relationship diagram. So this is also something that we never had, the relations between the different tables. And if there are queries using more like one of them to see how they stick together and how all those data sources within the application are actually connected to each other. This is also something that just is a side effect of having those templates in place here. So I believe this really, really, really brings us forward. I booked myself on a Power BI course on LinkedIn Learning lately, so I'm going. This will be my weekend task. So maybe Monday I will be wiser already and able to answer some questions. But for now, this is all I can say. Don't forget to get this privacy setting changed. And then after, as soon as you open one or import or open one of those templates, it's just as always in Office, you create a new document based on the template. This document will then as first ask for its parameters. This is why I was choosing this administration insights template, because it's the easiest, because it only has one parameter called the data source, which is the manager instance. You can connect it maybe to your work area on demo or wherever to see what it does, and then press the button. Refresh is the magic button that really takes the data. And if you do that, for instance, with a customer implementation, having lots and lots of users and data, this can take up to hours. And in fact, what happens is the data is kept persistent on the disk. So the data is held locally. So there's no direct OLE or ODBC connection to the database. And this is not real time. This is in real time as soon as I refresh. At that moment in time, it's current, but the data is held locally. Otherwise, this would simply be too much traffic. I would assume. Yeah, but this can be changed, and I don't know how, but it could also be real time if you really want to build a cockpit. But I think this would have too high impact on the server performance overall because of too many requests. So, but however, we can now really state, yes, if you want something being visualized in a very specific way for a management cockpit, for a health cockpit, this is where I see the most potential, health cockpits. You know? Having the engaged users, having the dropouts, and all on one sheet in one cockpit, and saying, okay, if there's a peak, something has most likely gone wrong in that particular process. This is what we can do now, at least theoretically. And hopefully, many of you are going to use it, because I see a lot of potential in there. Good.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
So, compatibility with SAP Analytics Cloud and like using these data endpoints?
I don't know. I would assume, but I don't know whether Analytics Cloud can be connected to legacy endpoints. Yeah, I believe that even for Analytics Cloud, Lumira has been the visualization engine. So Lumira would be, but Analytics Cloud is gathering data, but it's not receiving them from external sources, at least to my knowledge. But I'm definitely not a SAP Analytics Cloud expert. Yeah, I'm wondering myself why it's not mentioned at all here. Yeah, but the tool that we are using is, okay, data is already there, but it's on Enable Now. And we just want to dig it out and structure it somehow to present it in a nice way. Analytics Cloud gathers the data itself, so it's the data source as such. Not sure whether this would be possible or not. I can't answer that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Any other questions? Nope. Good. So that's the templates. That's the link again. Yeah. Again, you can download the complete deck from InfoCenter as always. Work area overview. There's 4 templates. As mentioned, I only showed one. The others are dealing with desktop and web assistant mainly. So this is something where I'm really looking forward trying this out in an environment where tracking is really active, but not yet happened. As soon as I did, I will take some screenshots for you at least. So that was the reporting topic. I believe that's the highlight of the current release. And then some authoring boxes, minor ones, mainly just usability enhancements that have been requested via influence. For instance, the server root, if you use it, that it's no longer, it's impossible to place it in unsorted. You see all those things. I mean, you can read them on your own. They try to avoid that anybody gets in touch with unsorted anymore, which is a good thing. On also locking resources, the fact that after importing resources from somewhere, they have been locked and assigned to the person that imported them was like a painful one sometimes. Yeah, it was nice thinking, but it never really was loved, so it's gone now. So stuff that makes life easier is in there. And the fact that unknown references, unsorted objects, orphans, however you're going to call them, is now handled just as resources. So factory default now doesn't display them anymore. This is the end result saying, okay, if it's empty, you don't have to show it anymore. Meaning it should be avoided. So if you work in a proper and well-formed structure, and together with the features that we have here, you should be able to create infrastructures that really and validly and on long term have an empty unsorted objects list. Import and overrides was also something that created hiccups sometimes, where the delta was only tick marked automatically, and you would have to open the write permission for the target if you want to override something. Now the import wizard asks meaningful questions, and everything else will happen automatically, including the overrides and the write token gathering and its error handled. So this is also nice. But also considered as, yes, this is as it always should have been. And context menu, this is what you all have realized already, for sure. The single item actions are called server actions, and the recursive actions are called server bulk changes. One is called actions, one changes. That's not true. Both are called changes. Is that true? Actions, both is actions. So single and bulk, recursive and single. As you remember, there was more these days. Yeah, we didn't want more anymore, so more is gone. Plus, and this is what some customers already asked me, the configuration area is gone. That defined whether a certain function, either the recursive or the single one, was on the first level and which one was under more. Yeah, that's gone for the reason that it's not needed anymore, because we have both on the same single level here and here. Or up here, nothing changed. Single actions first level, recursive actions second level, but I believe it's more consistent than it ever was now. Context menu, and now we are done. And now speak with me, please.
I could have a question about the, let's say, forced to go to the SAP App Launcher starting 2011. Is it?
Yeah.
So all our cloud customers have to use SAP App Launcher starting 2011. Okay.
Yeah, 2111.
Yeah, sorry, 2111 for sure.
That was the that was the announcement. That means JNLP as a starting technology is going to be retired in the next release. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a issue?
For me, not. I have to ask my customers.
Yeah. I already migrated most of mine.
Yeah, me too. But you still have those 2-3 left who are insist to work with Java.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, but that was, I mean, one thing to maintain less, more time to create new stuff.
And I just double checked one of my managers. Are there new permissions for Web Assistant?
Yes.
Or did I just miss them last time?
They are new, but they are new for a specific functionality, which is this, where are they? Web Assistant, there. Configuration edit view and snippet edit view. This is what you're talking, right? Yeah. And this activates within here the Web Assistant third-party integration functionalities. This is what those four do, and you either can view or you can really edit them. And there is two native roles. The implementer that uses predefined templates and the template designer who creates them. In fact, this is something where we're going to have a very dedicated expert session for, because that's a tricky one. We talk about coding. But this is for third-party integration, and this is one of the next sessions. We'll precisely just deal with that topic.
Okay, I was just curious because they are unticked by default for the administrator.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason, because it's still more or less beta. That's not yet part of the official feature set. It works like a charm, so it can be used. But there is no proper documentation, and since it's quite a complex topic, I personally would say, if you dare, go ahead. Play with it in any case, but I don't think that opening a ticket and saying in the template generator script snippet blah 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 there is a bug on the top right corner, maybe even the support guys wouldn't be able to answer it.
Okay.
Oh, hey Mike. So I was noticing something when I was using the server actions menu for like in producer. So like if I'm trying to update something from the server and I only want to update one object, it's actually calling the entire work area and not just a single object. I don't know if anybody else has encountered that when they were
It's funny.
setting up the producer.
Let's try. I don't know. If so, it's a bug. Sure.
Yeah, I think I've seen that, Nicole, as well. Byron here, by the way.
Waha.
So yeah, like it's just like when you want to update from the server, not necessarily from saving to the server.
Yeah, bug. It's a bug. I took notes. Will be fixed. Took notes. Anything else, guys?
Hi, Mike. It's Byron here.
Hey, Byron.
I've also noticed just today actually that in the HTML editor for text objects, so a text box, for example,
yes,
the text styles are there, so I can see them in the HTML editor, but unless I change it in the design properties, it doesn't pull through the text style of that I've selected in the HTML editor. I don't know whether that's something that I'm doing wrong or whether it's something that's a bug as well, perhaps.
Let's see. So you're saying you create a text object. Let's create an explanation here. And you're saying here?
Yeah, I was talking about book pages specifically. Well, the one that I saw anyway, it was in a book page.
Oh, that's the same editor. That makes no difference.
Yeah.
And you're saying that if you mark this paragraph and you apply a style,
yeah,
then it.
Yeah. So I can see the changed style there, but in the actual bubble, it doesn't change.
Oh, that's not good. There it works.
Oh,
maybe is this style connected to a specific font, which is somehow specific to the customer, like a house font or something?
They're actually using SAP 72. So.
Okay. That's a ticket, Baron.
Okay.
Most likely this is solvable, but I don't have no idea how right now,
okay.
just out of by heart.
Okay.
But that's for sure solvable, because if there would be a bug in visualization, most likely we would have known.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so as well. I have another question that's not necessarily 2105 related. Can I ask that now?
Sure. Anything. It's your time.
Thank you. My customer has got one author that's using a Mac. Is it possible to use Windows emulators to still use desktop components? Excellent.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Restrictionless, actually. Yeah. This Windows virtual machines on Macs, they are since ever quite robust.
Excellent.
Can be considered as a regular Windows. There's no restrictions.
Fantastic. Thank you for letting me know.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else, folks?
Short one from my side again, sorry. Did you try the high contrast modes? Because I couldn't.
No. That question never has been asked to me. I stumbled upon this functionality as soon as I read the What's New for the first time.
Okay. Yeah,
and no customer ever asked that. Yeah? I know the restrictions because somebody else told me, another guy from the US who was asked that a lot of times. This seems to be quite a hip discussion about high contrast versus no high contrast in the States, but none of my customers ever was talking to me about that. And I never tried it, no.
I think I can enlighten you about the high contrast thing and why it might be hip in the States. I'm actually using high contrast themes sometimes because they are actually visible for people who are colorblind like me.
But there are colorblind in Germany as well, aren't there?
Yeah, but probably with a greater emphasis that's laid on that in the US for whatever Barrierefreiheit means in
the accessibility
in
acts
English.
Accessibility acts
and so forth. And so this is something I've long dreamed of, especially in the web architect, that we can actually freely define color schemes for instance, setting anchors onto screen objects. Because for me personally, for instance, green, yellow, and orange are one, and brown are one color continuum. So basically, everything I see there is just green. So the high contrast fixes that.
Got it. Thank you, Christoph. There must be funny configurations or designs that you created around.
Let me put it this way: back in the old company, I always had a junior consultant who would look at my at my PowerPoints, because they were either very drab, that means blue, green, and gray, or they looked like clownfish on acid.
All right, clownfish on acid, like
very color.
Good. Anything else, folks?
New release, something that everybody knows if there's extra time. Is that okay?
Jen, I don't know whether this was on my end or on yours, but you were sounding very roboterish. I didn't get anything you said.
Not connected to the new release.
No chance, Jen. No chance. You're not audible right now. I believe you have to dial back in or change something, but I can't understand you.
Type the question.
Or type the question, yeah. But we can't understand you right now. Maybe that's something that we can take offline. No? I mean, we have some time left, but if there is nothing from the others, we can just have a heads up and I can show you again. Alrighty. To the rest of the gang, any further questions or remarks? No? In that case, I'm going to give you an hour and a half back and wish you a very, very pleasant weekend. I hope it's as sunny as here where you are. My day ends in the public pool together with my son today for the first time. Really looking forward. So have a great weekend. We talk again the latest in 4 weeks when we have the next session. Most likely this is going to be dedicated either to the Web Assistant third-party integration or to the reporting and Power BI template discussion. Do me a favor, vote, and drop me your priorities in GEM, in that one thread that we once opened to get our agendas discussed and rated. Then I know what you need most. And as always, if there's anything, drop me a mail. Feel free to do that anytime. Take care and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.